Them jeans.
Them jeans. What's up? How Long Gone is back. If you just are listening to us for the second time because you discovered us from our 1975 episode, welcome all depressed 19-year-olds. Thank you for joining us on How Long Gone. You won't stay long.
If you have a 1975 tattoo, go ahead and shut this podcast off now, and we'll just see kind of who's left after the bodies are sorted out. Jason, how are you feeling? Because I've had a crazy morning, Chief.
Ooh, I'm feeling okay. Yesterday, I was able to do, you do 3 a days. I did a 2 a day. I did a 3 a day yesterday. So I'm feeling good and sore.
Okay. Hold on. A dog walk doesn't count. So what did you actually do? Because I'm confused. I know you have a lot of free time, but still.
Of course, there was a dog walk, and I try to get my Sporty and Rich dog walk in every morning. I think it's good for not only the body, but also the mind. I don't know if you can wrap your head around that theory. But
I'm more focused on soul, something that I don't think you have. But
I have so much more soul than you, Chris, and I'm not even a soldier.
Do not slander the killers on this podcast. I will not stand for it.
That's only slander if you want it to be, Chris. Just something to think about. Take a look at the man in the mirror when you're talking about.
Now we're gonna reference Michael Jackson. This is a bad day for you, Jason. Keep going.
Look, I know that a lot of Stereo Gum listeners are listening to this episode right now, so I have to sort of appeal to that demographic. I'll have to let them know that music is life, not just for you.
Yeah, if it involves pavement, then it's life. Everything else is just details.
The morning was like a kind of like a stretch sesh, movement work. I got the bands. I'm doing the lunges and I'm blah blah blah. And then I went and hit some balls on the lobster. And then after that, I went to the gym and had a pump.
Okay,
and then a sauna.
I'm proud of you. That sounds great.
It was great. You should be proud.
I'm jealous. I got up on my 40th birthday and did a 6:30 a.m. workout with Hunter, where he tried to injure me. It felt like with some of the weights that he was suggesting, but
he tried to add a few more years onto your already aging body.
He was adding years and plates. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it was a tough combo. My legs were torched, but luckily Shinobu came over in the afternoon to kind of give me a B-day rub down.
Oh, did he do the special spot again?
He did the special spot again, which this time seemed to be between my shoulders, which now is feeling bruised and immobile today after he put his...
For our listeners at home, when he said shoulders, it was obviously an air quote, but you guys can't see that. It's an audio-based podcast. Yeah, it's in my shoulders. It's between my shoulders, wink, wink.
Don't lead people to believe...
When he says it's between my shoulders, he means it was between my gutters. And take that for what you will, however you want to decipher that.
Take that for what you will. But yeah,
but that's good. You sounds like you're doing your 40th the right way, man.
I know. And then we finished with the little John and Vinny's bad boy dinner. And luckily I was able to somehow finish my gym lettuce salad, even though Kodak Black was hurting my ears.
Look, if you're hearing Kodak at John and Vinny's, consider that a blessing. It could be a lot worse.
That's the best you could. Yeah, at least it's not Kanye West. But the thing about it that I think is funny is that Alex pointed this out. She was like, "This might be the only restaurant in the world where I'd rather sit in the shed than inside because you can't hear the hip hop." And I was like, "Damn, that's a great point."
That is a great point, and I may agree. With that. I think the goal is to one day get to the point where you're so powerful that you can walk into John and Vinny. This transcends Kim K and Skeet. This is real power where you're like, I'm going to pick the music in here, or just turn it off.
Turn it down.
And they're like, yes, right away, Mr. Black.
Mr. Black, anything for you. But yeah, but then because of my torch schedule today, I had to run this morning at 5:30 a.m. Jason, I was out on the streets. I was out on the streets in pitch black darkness. And I have to say, it was absolutely incredible.
Your life is not a movie. Your life sounds like a REM video. But
it was, yeah. I didn't cry, weirdly, but it did. I did feel like I was hovering above Earth.
Interesting. So are you saying this may have been where soul meets body?
Oh, don't do that, Jason, but it might be. Damn, Jason is...
I didn't want to do it.
But we do have some important topics to cover, not just my 40th birthday or our fitness routines, but Roger Federer, who in his later years, unfortunately, has been wearing the ugliest shoe ever made. is
he
retiring.
on Boys? Or what is it?
He's on Boys. He's retiring from the game of tennis. One of the best players of all time. A beautiful stroke. We're sad to see him go.
He was always my favorite kind of legacy pro to watch. I always liked his style and identified with it.
I'm glad you
identify
identify with him because you don't mimic it in any way. But I guess you still got some time. You got some time to work on that.
I'm also bad at the net. Okay.
But yes, with his retirement comes hopefully the retirement of On Running's foray into tennis onto the court. We're gonna pray for that. But
On Running is the new one, and we can't wait until Nike shuts them down.
Exactly. Great documentary reference. And another news, Twink of the Century, Timothée Chalamet, is on the cover of British Vogue. And Jason pointed out that it looks like an late 80s cover of Marie Claire. He can't just place it. And I think that's a very, very astute observation.
But in terms of cropping of the image, down to the hairstyle, he has the hairstyle of, some of our older listeners might, like a character, a female lead from Dynasty or Love Boat is somewhere that our man Timothée is resembling.
Yes, I just don't like it, and I think that I had this. So I did this Business of Fashion.
Maybe designing women.
Yeah, it's very designing women. I did this Business of Fashion kind of live panel on Zoom earlier this week.
Shout out to all the BOF members.
It was really fun actually, and it was with this guy Chris Morency who is like running this thing called Vanguard's Group, which owns several brands, and then Daniel, who wrote a story about the menswear market.
We reported that the menswear market was sizzling hot.
It's motherfucking
just days before.
It's motherfucking on fire. We had to break it down even further, and Timothée got brought up, and I was like, well, the thing that people aren't realizing is that even if he's gender fluid and bending the rules and blah blah blah, he looks bad, and I think we need to prioritize. Like, why can't we just say it's okay to swing and miss? Like when Harry's on stage wearing that shit, it like makes sense because he's on stage. When he's walking down the street wearing it, he looks bad. Like, it's okay
when he's at the Panera drive-thru.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when he's at the Panera drive-thru in Garden Grove
with his sequin blouse.
Yeah, the sequin blouse. There's a moment. It's like anything else. It's like if you see a woman wearing an insane outfit in the middle of the day, you're like, that looks bad. That's inappropriate. Why can't we say that? Why these guys they can't look good all the time in a backless Hader Ackerman top. Like, that's not like,
well, that's the red
good.
All red getup that you were talking about. And somebody said he looks like a Real Housewife who just arrived at his surprise birthday party that he planned for himself.
That's exactly what it is, though. It's and not
what
even.
What are you guys doing here?
But yeah, I just think it's okay to say, like, Timothée Chalamet has looked bad every time he has been in front of a camera for as long as I can remember. Like, even when he wasn't trying, he would look bad in a different way. And I just like, at least with Harry, like, you see Harry on Instagram when he's recording the album and he's wearing like jeans and a t-shirt and he looks cool.
Yeah, I guess without anyone critiquing or feeling like they have an open forum to discuss and critique something, these stars will never learn. If it's offensive to look at the game tape and be like,
yeah,
hey,
like,
we made some mistakes here on our hemline. Maybe we can just change the color up here. Purple's not good for your eyeshadow. Whatever it is, that's how you learn.
When gay baiting is more important. Gay baiting is prioritized over actually looking good. I think we've found a problem.
And speaking of looking at the man in the mirror.
Yeah, this is making, obviously I've had multiple breakdowns when I've realized this, and I'm kind of coming to terms with it. And I also will be kind of changing my look, and I will be going back to kind of a classic working class stolen valor in the near future.
Okay.
So thank you for your counsel, Jason. It's been helpful.
First one's free. The next time there'll be an invoice on the other end of it.
Negging me has finally paid off for you after all these years to be friends.
Negging me has paid off for you too. But
that's right.
On a headier note, on the subject of gay baiting, it kind of, as we're sort of entering, this is sort of like the first or second, 1.0, 2.0 of the world of gay baiting, in mass. And I think we're starting to see a trend where, like, somebody like Chalamet, he might be gay baiting because somebody told him to, like a PR team or a management, or just he had the smarts to do it. But people might start realizing like, is your gay baiting rooted in commerce? Are you doing it because you feel like, oh, I can make a lot of money off of my gay baiting? The gay market will love me and I'll be able to find success there. Versus, a pure traditional gay baiting of just like, I'm just a straight guy who enjoys the adoration of a gay person, of a gay man. Like the way a gay person enjoys me, it feels good, and that's it.
I would never gay bait for profit, and you know that, Jason. Don't you know what I mean?
I worry. I mean, I want to think that's true, Chris. I want to think that's true, but I think that we both might be guilty of it, and it's time we do a little spring cleaning.
Okay, no, look, I'm glad.
And think about what we have done and haven't done, and who we haven't done. More importantly,
yeah, we're going to talk about this. I mean, I was hoping to bait fully into getting maybe like a Grindr advertisement, but I guess that's not going to happen. We do have a guest today.
Sniffies is paying attention.
Sniffies is looking. We do have a guest today. Jason, we're going with the triple OG, Ben Gibbard. You know him from Death Cab for Cutie, your favorite band for the last 20 years. You also know him from Jason's favorite band,
Postal Service.
The Postal Service. Wow, I blanked on it.
That's okay. I'll clean it up in post.
That's how much I like Death Cab for Cutie. But Gibbard, they got a new album coming out. Asphalt Meadows is actually out tomorrow. So we're getting him.
This is good timing.
Yeah, this is great timing. Gibbard has been running 100 miles at a time. He's a sober king. He's written many songs that we all know the words to. And he chooses to live in Washington, which I think is an interesting thing about him.
Might be a tax thing.
Yeah, and I want to talk about his head of hair as well. just getting into the important How Long Gone stuff. So let's
he's had a lot of evolutions over the years.
No, he's had a lot of great haircuts in the public eye. So let's give Ben
he's
a jingle.
had a lot of
and see what he's up
haircuts
to.
in the public eye. I don't know why that's making me laugh.
Thank you for joining us today on How Long Gone, Ben Gibbard. What's up, bro? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm just in Los Angeles telling everybody that will listen that we have a new record coming out.
Yeah. We usually don't catch guys like you, in the heat of things. You know what I mean? So the fact that How Long Gone, probably your favorite podcast, is kind of smashed between other interviews. It does feel.
Yeah, it feels good. You got Kimmel after this and Fallon and all that stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm out here talking to all these assholes, but I'm like, finally I get to fucking talk to you guys. It's like a highlight of the week.
Talk to a couple different assholes.
Different assholes. They're uglier versions of the guys that have TV shows. That's kind of what podcasting is.
That's not true.
That's what podcasting is.
That's not true.
But I know, so you're in the throes of things right now. But when you and I were emailing earlier this summer, and you were going on a holiday to Europe, I believe.
Did you make that mistake as well, Ben?
Yeah, we hate travel, so I just want to see how it. I just, because you said that I can't remember how you worded it to me exactly, but you said that it was like a vacation, but you were also going to be running.
Yeah, I do this perverse hobby where I run long, stupid distances in the mountains, and most of my vacations tend to involve that as at least a component. So my wife and I were in we were in Copenhagen for a couple of days, and then we were in Chamonix, France for 10 days. Mm-hmm. So we would like hike and run all day, and then come back and just crush food and sit in like very nice pools of water and so on.
Okay, all right. So your vacation sounds better than ours, because ours had we had to move a lot, and Italian food is bad. You know how it goes. So, so you're saying to me that you found a wife that is into the same perverse shit you're into. Is that what you're saying?
Or did you slowly break her down over the years and get her to participate in your ultramarathon running?
I have a wife who is very tolerant and supportive of this done habit, and can be bribed with wine. So if I can bribe her with wine and nice hotels and spas along the way. Yeah, she's more than willing to participate. I mean, she's run a couple ultramarathons.
Okay.
She likes hiking and being out in the mountains and stuff. So we kind of settle into a conversational hiking pace when we're out there, and then I go off and do my own.
Okay,
shit.
this is cool, because I like the fact, because I also like to buy my way out of problems and difficult situations. So I think that we have that in common, because I do think something that most people can relent to is a nice hotel, especially in a foreign land.
100%, yeah, and it's like it's like I feel like we kind of my wife and I toggle between like this highbrow, lowbrow existence where, it's like, let's go out and get really filthy in the mountains and, eat weird food. And then let's come back into the city and put on nice clothes and be bougie as fuck,
Right. Let's shit in the woods and then go into the 10,000 thread count sheets at the Mandarin Oriental.
Yep, that's 100% my life. That is what my life is. Yes.
It's an amazing way to live, and I also like there are some similarities because Chris himself, he also is a sober workout maniac like yourself, and his life partner is not sober. But I like the way that you've sort of, do you have any tips on how to sort of manage and wrangle that? Obviously you're bribing her with the poison of alcohol, which I think is a good idea.
Yes.
But any speed bumps along the way to get to where you're at now?
Before you make any suggestions, I would like to say that I think that we're probably in different tax brackets, so kind of consider that. You know what I mean? Just
Chris, I have a lot of great bottles in the 20 range, if that's better for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And they are available by the glass.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think the one piece of advice that I give to people is like, I believe you can be a sober person with somebody who drinks so long as they are not a heavy drinker to alcoholic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I got sober California sober in 2008. I quit drinking, and I kind of like had this. I kind of had this like. I had other friends get sober and they'd kind of go into this tactic where like if you walked into a room, there could be no alcohol anywhere for anybody to have. And as a musician in a band with other people who, drink socially and stuff like that, that just felt like a really ridiculous ask. And so I felt like when Rachel and I got together, it was kind of like, it's like, I'm not going to bring my bullshit. I'm the one with the drinking problem, not you. And I'm a pretty like, all or nothing person if the ultra running is not any indication. So when I quit, I just went cold turkey and was just like, you know what? I'm not doing this again. And I haven't since. So.
God bless.
Amazing.
Well, so what did you? So this ultra running shit, because like like Jason said, I'm a pretty extreme athlete myself. But the shit you're doing sounds like dangerous, bro. If I'm being honest, like, have you had some touching? Have you had to be airlifted out of any mountain ranges, or are you good? Like, how do you prepare for this?
Has anyone ever wrapped your body in aluminum foil?
I've never had to be airlifted, knock on wood. I carry a transponder, like a Garmin inReach with me when I go into the backcountry.
Shit.
And
you
gotta make sure that you're with someone else. I've had a couple, wild animal run-ins, but nothing that involved like a fist fight or anything, with the animal in question. Thankfully they knew that they knew better than to fuck with me, Yeah, I'm a grizzly bear. I don't want to be staring down the business end barrel of a Ben Gibbard coming right at me. You kidding me? Yeah, you really don't. And I think the word is out in the grizzly community. Is what I'm picking up is that.
Sure. No, not just. Let's just go to the next one. It's just not worth it.
No. We don't. No, leave him alone. Let's get the smaller.
It's just not worth it. It's just not.
Don't
worth
be a hero.
I even forget about those challenges. I just mean that I'm obviously more focused on the limitations of the human body, which is something that you seem to have kind of levitated above.
Oh, it's not so much. It's not so much that. It's just that I'm very aware of my limitations and kind of my level of like I'm not an alpinist. Like I'm just a runner. So like I have friends who do crazy alpine shit and go deep into like climbing like Rainier twice, for fun.
Yeah,
and
sure.
that's not my bag. Like I'm just like I'm
just a regular average Joe who runs 100 miles a day like everyone else.
I'm just a normal person.
I know you're a normal guy, and you can play guitar. It's fucked up, bro. Leave some for the rest of us, okay? Now, do you? I want to talk gear just for a second, not to get too crazy, but what footwear are we wearing? I don't want to blow up your sponsors, but what footwear are you wearing? Because I have a lot of opinions on this, so I just wanted to see where you're at with it.
My go-to trail shoe for the last year or so has been the Brooks Cascadia, which was like kind of one of the first trail shoes back in the day, and
Yeah.
they kind of went through a period of some pretty bad design, and kind of got lapped by a lot of the other trail, like shoe companies.
Nice pun.
They've got like exactly. They've got really great designers right now, and they're kind of coming back into the fray with some great shoes. So yeah, that's my go.
And are you wearing tights? Are you wearing shorts? Like, what is the story on the bottom?
I'm just like I'm a shorts guy. I'm not like a Euro tights guy. I'm just like a shorts and a shirt guy. Just a very, nothing fancy.
Okay. And how are your nipples feeling? You know what I mean? Like, are you getting a lot of chafing? Is there blood? Or are you able to kind of work past that?
Oh, you got to tape the nipples, my friend. You got to tape them up.
That's right. I knew it was coming. I use Nippies. Thank you to our friends at Nippies over there on Amazon.com. And I'm not even running long distances. I'm just wearing funky fabrics.
Let me give you a tip that will save you a lot of money. Is just buy a roll of like 3M Durapore tape and use that instead. It's so fucking cheap. It's like a whole roll will last you 2 years. No disrespect to the people at Nippies. I'm sure they're, I don't want to be, taking money out of their pocket, but I'm just saying, like, it's really, you don't need a gear specific solution to this problem. You just need some 3M Durapore tape.
Will the 3M tape also work for my goth nights when I take my shirt off and kind of go that style, or is it clear?
Yeah, see, it's white. So that might not work for you. Yeah, you're going to want then in that case you might want the
good for the black lights, Chris, maybe. And walk me through the nipple hair. Does the hair get pulled out? Or are you hairless down there?
I'm a manly man, so you got to be careful in the positioning of the tape. You got to put the positioning of the tape. You got to make sure you get it right on there, right? Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a whole thing.
No, for sure. I've dealt with some stuff. All right, this is good info because I like it when adult men have hobbies. You know what I mean? Because as a musician. There's a lot of downtime, as you know. There's a lot of downtime. There's off years. I'm sure you're always writing, of course. But is this your main focus, or have you really gotten to your hobby bag as you've gotten older?
Do you mean is running the only thing I do, or do I have other hobbies?
Yeah, what else? Because I bet you got some other freaky shit going on. Let's be honest.
Are you playing Angry Birds? Ceramics? What's going on? Are you making bongs?
I should start making bongs, shouldn't I? It's like really, it's like given the state of the music industry these days, you really need a side hustle, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe bong construction, artisan kind of bong construction. Maybe I can get them on Etsy or something. But only for tobacco. They're only tobacco. Right. They're tobacco pipes.
Of course.
No, I guess it's kind of weird because you're saying everyone needs a side hustle because the state of the music industry. But I also think in the state of just content in general, I feel like you went from being Ben Gibbard, a legendary musician for decades that we all enjoy, to being once everyone found out that you run a lot, then they're we have a thing to do a story about it. And I'm sure you've got a lot of press about the running in the last few years compared to the music, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's I think that the kind of running I do is such a niche thing. Mm-hmm. I have a whole community of friends and acquaintances that I've met through the sport that it's been a really nice kind of counterweight to my identity as a musician, and also it's being in the music industry, you're kind of, and being in bands, you kind of run the risk of being around people who are exactly like you all the time. And it's nice to have this hobby that kind of gets me out of my headspace, gets me out of my ego as a musician, and allows me just to be like a shitty runner, So yeah, I get a couple of those here and there, but I think at the end of the day, thankfully people, they still are interested in, at least some are interested in the music that we make. So
it's not necessarily a bad thing. Not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
So then in the running community, the only thing that you really have in common with your comrades are that you're all sober, I'm assuming, or there's some type of psychological disorder that's going on?
Yeah, well, if we fall into three categories. We're either sober, type A, advanced degrees, everything is planned to the 11th degree kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Or they're insane people, truly insane dirtbag people. That's
or just textbook insanity.
Yeah, that's the three, the kind of I live in my truck. And I sell grilled cheese sandwiches. That's my job. And I live at a trailer. That's those are the three kind of types of people who do sport. It seems like.
Yeah. Jason and I play a lot of tennis. We don't encounter a lot of van livers in our sport. So that's something that we could kind of aspire to.
I sell grilled cheeses. I follow the dead, and in the next 6 months, I will murder my partner. Is sort of what my plan is.
That's the trajectory. I don't. What are your feelings on the Grateful Dead, Ben? Because a lot of guys our age come to all of a sudden like the Grateful Dead, and it's something I personally cannot understand or comprehend.
Dude, I am 100% with you. I have a lot of friends who, in the last 5 years, have turned to me and been like, "Have you checked in with the Grateful Dead? Have you really listened to Dead?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've listened to Dead." "No, man, but have you really listened to them? You gotta listen to Europe '72. That's what you gotta listen to." And look, if you like if people listen to this thing, love the Grateful Dead, that's fine. There's plenty of music out there for everybody, but I have just never given a shit about the Grateful Dead. I have tried many, many times.
You gave it a shot, but you don't give a shit.
Exactly. And clearly
I've tried too. And even John Mayer can't make me love them.
Yeah.
My Guitar Hero isn't enough to bring me into the fold.
Well, and if John Mayer can't do it, who can?
Exactly, Ben. You get me, bro. You get me.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of feel it's they don't need me as a fan. It doesn't matter if, I think I kind of reject this idea that why should you say it's okay to not like something or hate something? That doesn't mean that the thing is inherently bad or valueless. It just means that you don't like it. And music is so fucking personal that people get offended when you say you don't like them, their band, or you don't like a band that they love. And it's look, millions of people love the Grateful Dead. That's great for them and the Grateful Dead. I don't have to participate in your weird jam culture. I just don't want to do it.
I agree. I recently found out about a band called Goose. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not. No.
Okay, good. So I had John Mayer did this live stream from Montana and I watched it, and it was on this network called Nugs.net. And I'm like,
what? No.
Yeah, this is all real. Ben, this is all real. You're a member of the music business. You should know about this.
Well, describe what nugs.net does, Chris.
It just live streams jam bands, basically. And it's doing very well. So I make fun of the name of it on Twitter. And then, of course, my friendly followers inform me that Goose, this young jam band, has kind of made a name for themselves by covering Drake songs on TikTok in a jam band style. And then they stream their shows, but they have Trey Anastasio will come out with them and play. So they've got the seal of approval. But all of this was new to me, and I feel it was a little bit of a blind spot in my knowledge.
Yeah, I that sounds like something that would be happening right now. And I have to say that, as much as I might be kind of I'm expressing my dislike for the Grateful Dead, you have to give it to jam bands because they have found out a way to continue touring without ever making new music.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Well, I guess just should clarify, the new music they're making are the jams they're doing on stage.
Sure.
So there's not there's not this necessity to with a band like us, who it's we could go on a tour without a record, but really to be on the road, we need to have a record out. That's kind of the criteria, because we need new songs to play, because we're not just going to, play our old ones, but 15 minutes long with guitar solos. Which honestly, as I'm saying it, maybe we should start doing that.
It doesn't sound too bad, honestly.
It would save me a lot of work.
Yeah, that's a cool idea for you guys. Just pivot to a jam band style. You're not a jam band. You're just kind of co-opting the style of show. That could be good for you.
I've tried writing songs. It's tough. It's better to do it this way.
Well, and yeah, there's also one of my favorite bands, which probably is obvious if anybody's heard our records, is Build Still. Mm-hmm. And an interesting thing has been happening with them over the last 20 years, in that the jam band community has found them.
Really?
And they're kind of like jam band adjacent, because, Doug can play the shit out of the guitar and likes doing these kind of long solos and stuff. So, their fan base, when you go on their shows now, is this interesting amalgamation of indie rockers, people my age, who kind of grew up with them, and then people who love, Widespread Panic. It's an odd kind of mixture.
String cheese. As a lifelong BTS fan, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great for them. Anything that keeps Doug out in the world playing music and making records and playing shows, I'm good with, man. So I feel like I long since kind of let go of this idea of ownership of my favorite bands or artists, and recognize that it's I think when you're young and when you're a teenager or a young person, you find a band and they speak to you, right? And when you're that age, you haven't done much yet. Your life's still kind of getting going. So your personality is made up a lot of the things that you like. And if you like obscure things, that makes you, an interesting person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if like the captain of the football team is like singing along to Nirvana, that's kind of like there's like a disconnect there between your sense of identity and individuality and, maybe the kind of person that you do not want to associate with at that point in your life, And
you're like, I got to start listening to some more Throbbing Gristle fast because these fucking jocks are losing my buzz.
These fucking jocks stole Stone Temple Pilots for me. This is bullshit, bro. Have you guys, we just had the 1975 on the podcast earlier this week. I didn't realize this. They had opened for the Stones. And I was, over the years, have you guys done a Red Hot Chili Peppers tour that I don't remember, like Wild Boy shit like that, or have you luckily missed it?
Maybe?
Yeah, I could see a U2 for you guys.
We did a tour with Neil Young in 2008. We opened for Neil.
Shit,
yeah,
really?
That was pretty amazing. We've toured. Pearl Jam took us on tour back in the day. We actually were. It was a weird pairing, but we were invited to do some shows with the Stones about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was just logistically impossible and would have been fine. It would have cost us a lot more money than we were making. And it was like, look, I would love to say that we opened for the Rolling Stones, but not at the cost of tens of thousands of dollars,
I want to have sex with Emily Ratajkowski, but I don't want to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Something like that, man.
But it's like, I could, for that price, I could buy my entire family, VIP tickets and a private jet to get to the Rolling Stones concert.
Yeah. You're like, I can meet Keith Richards another way. I don't have to lose this much money.
And I won't get booed that way.
Yeah, exactly. And also, think of our band and think of us opening for the Rolling Stones and how hated we would be in that context.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Bunch of 60-year-old hedge fund managers being like, what the fuck is going on here, bro?
Yeah, exactly.
Sucks.
Pearl Jam is another interesting, they're a jam band now. They put out live records all the time. Like that's a big part of their community as well, which I didn't see. I'm always surprised to see that.
They put on a passionate live show, Chris. That's why
people love
them. They've always been marijuana adjacent as well. Right?
Yeah, that's true. They're definitely marijuana adjacent.
That goes a long way in the jam community. So speaking of marijuana, you mentioned being Cali sober. Could you explain exactly your flavor of Cali sober, please?
Yeah, I'm like I'm kind of the occasional indica gummy before bed kind of user. It's like I don't really like smoking that much, and I don't really like being. It's weird to say this, but I don't really like enjoy being high that much. At least not when I'm expected to be a functioning person. Like I don't understand how people go through the world high all the time. I mean, I get, people do it, right? But yeah, I'm just kind of like, it's usually like, let's put on a movie and I'm going to eat this gummy. And then right when I'm starting to get a little too high, it's going to be time for bed. That's kind of my vibe.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I mean, sometimes the world is just a boring place and it gets better with drugs.
That is true. Yeah. I think we learned that over the last couple of years, right? It's very beneficial for us to be living in states that had legal weed. So, and I think also too, like, since it's been legal, it's been really great to see kind of the curtain pulled back on like who uses cannabis. It's not just dudes in rat t-shirts, like it's not heavy metal parking lot. It's like, yeah, it's every walk of life, and it's very beneficial. It's a very beneficial in moderation.
That's right, and thank God, because podcasters would be lost without it, right, Jason? I mean, if we, I don't know where we would be if you weren't.
I haven't been able to edit an episode of a podcast sober in months. I mean, the thought of it is asinine.
Yeah, it would be bad for. Yeah,
everyone. Ben, I feel like we'll by the time this pod is done, we have a lot of founders and CEOs in the cannabis space who listen to this show, so I'm sure you'll get a few PR emails. We'll get some indica gummies sent over to the house real quick. Don't worry. And maybe we can have our own, death cab strain or something like that. We'll talk after the show.
All right. So that'd be great. If we can get that going, that would save me, tens of dollars.
You live in Seattle, right?
I do. Yes.
Now, did you ever live in New York or LA, or have you always stayed there?
I lived in LA for 3 years, from 2008 to 2011. I was married when I lived here, and then it was kind of a leap of faith, and I moved back to Seattle. I was like, okay, I'm never leaving Seattle again. This is my home. I think people have those realizations where like they kind of get a little stagnant in Seattle is ostensibly my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Life had gotten a little stagnant, and I was like, my life had taken a crazy turn, and I ended up in LA, which was the last place a lot of people ever thought I would be.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and I got a lot of weird shit happen when I was down here, and then when I was driving home, kind of divorce haze. I was like, you know what, this is good. I belong in Seattle. This is my home. Like, I'm never leaving again.
How do you look at your kind of courtship with like true celebrity? Was that like not for you, or was it just kind of a fun thing to do for a little while and then it was over and it's all good?
I kind of chalk that period of my life up to like, just a massive leap of faith.
Yeah.
And sometimes those things work out and sometimes they don't, when, Zoe and I were married, things moved very quickly, quicker than I'd ever moved before. There were some very good times and some not great times, as one might imagine with
Sure.
such a.
I mean, that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just think that
Yeah, exactly.
that the added pressure of the situation, and especially if you're someone who's like, this is funny, but I don't love it. You know what I mean? Is a little.
Oh no, 100%. Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it was like there was being kind of like celebrity adjacent, and kind of finding myself in circles with some very famous people in a town that feeds off of very famous people. It made me question why anybody that famous would live here.
Sure. Sure.
I had a friend, a very, very well-known friend who was driving their car down the street in LA, and a bike pulled out in front of them and crashed to the front of their car. And they got out of the car and like, oh my God, are you okay? And the person popped up with a camera and started taking photos of them.
Oh,
like the moment that happened,
yes.
I would be like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not living here. This is madness,
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I guess there's kind of some people have lived with it so long that they just kind of learn to deal, I guess, but, thankfully, I'll tell you, here's a good story. Like I was in LA living here, and I was in some fucking like shopping center or whatever, looking for whatever I was looking for. And there was like the kind of place that had paparazzi. It's like an outdoor mall, right?
Sure. We love those here.
Maybe the Americana, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, there's some guys with cameras, paparazzi kind of like hanging out, looking for somebody to take photos of. And I see one of them like see me, and he turns to his friend and he's like, I can see them talking. And they're like, what they're trying to do is like, I think I know who that guy is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not quite sure. I think he's married to so-and-so.
Is this guy worth the film?
And and it's digital, right? So the guy just kind of goes like, I see, this is a true story. I see him,
battery.
I see him shrug to his friend, pick up the camera and go, snap, snap, and then put the camera back and continue with this conversation. And I was like,
He threw a couple courtesy snaps your way.
Exactly. And I was like, I was like, okay, it's like I'm flattered a bit, but that's an indication of my level of celebrity, or I should say more so my level of, how adjacent to celebrity I am. Somebody's like, yeah, I mean, if this was film, I wouldn't waste it, but I got whatever. I got like a big memory card. I can erase these later.
My card ain't full. It's all good.
I got 128 gigabytes here. I think I'll be fine.
It's been a slow day at the Grove. I mean, like whatever, it's fine.
Now, I guess nowadays when you guys are traveling and touring all over the world, what country do you experience that sort of celebrity level fandom? Like, where is it? Like South America is a big one for a lot of bands. I don't know, maybe Japan or something.
Well, the first time we went to the Philippines in 2012, we played a show and we pulled it and we got to the venue and we came out on stage and it was like pandemonium. It was like Beatlemania. I was like, oh my God, this is wild. And there were people at the hotel.
I guess a lot of bands don't go there, right?
Well, there's more to the story. So like,
Okay.
it's like pandemonium. And there's like, people are screaming and I can't hear. And the people at the hotel, they're chasing us in the van.
Wow.
And we kind of turn to each other like, wow, I guess we are very famous here. This is kind of feeling ourselves like, I guess we should come back to the Philippines. We're very famous here.
I think I'm going to like the Philippines.
Exactly. And we come back 3 years later and we're like, here we go. Famous in the Philippines, and we're headlining this festival. And we show up at the festival, And like there are some local bands playing who are just like bands from around the corner, basically. And we notice that the crowd is doing the same thing. Like they're doing the same like screaming, yelling, like Beatlemania thing. I was like, oh, I see. This is just how it is here. We had this like kind of like specific experience in a bubble outside of knowing anything more about this culture. So we kind of thought that was fucking hilarious that we were telling people back at home, like, we're really famous in the Philippines, guys. I mean, we're like the Beatles back there. And it's like, no, if you play music on stage, this is how people act. This is kind
really
of like,
any band gets the same reception.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, there's nobody, I mean, I don't know. We've always done well in Germany for some reason, but the German people are a little more subdued.
Mm-hmm. They like anything with the word death in the name over there.
Yeah, and they want you to play for a very long time. That's also something that they want their money's worth. They want 3 encores. That's what they want. We were warned about that first time we went over there, and it's like you gotta put in the work in Germany. They expect a long set.
Wow, I've never heard that before. Three encores is too many. No offense to you. I mean, you guys got songs, but Jesus Christ.
I mean, look, by the time we get to the end of the set, we barely have 1 encore. So like, the idea that we're going to do 3 is like, all right, guys, if you guys want to hear like a couple deep cuts off the first record, I guess we can play those.
We can do that if we have to. We on this program we often ask our musician guests about a legendary sync that they either made a fortune on or turned down and regret. And I'm sure you have many of those stories from both Death Cab and Postal Service.
You got a T-Mobile commercial? Something like that.
Oh, I see. A sink. I when you first said it, I was thinking like of an actual sink.
We're not talking about any Kohler products whatsoever.
Yeah.
Sink with a Y.
Yeah. I just recently, and not that long ago, the Postal Service turned down a sink with an airline company owned by a country that is not exactly cool when it comes to civil rights.
Cool.
And
okay.
They're not exactly cool. They're not exactly cool with queer people or women either. So we were like, you know what? I think we should probably. I think we can live with.
How much was that Emirates? How much was the Emirates check going to be?
Yeah. How much are we talking? Because like this.
It was a solid mid 6 figures. So yeah, it was
for a song that you guys wrote almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like let's we can build the pool in the backyard now kind of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's would not have felt good about it and would not have. And if we were looking at it from a merely kind of position of self-preservation, it would not have been good in the world for us to take that money.
And how awesome it must feel to be in a position where you can turn down, a mid 6 figures payday for truly doing absolutely nothing except hitting yes on an email.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% not lost on me. I mean, we are in a very privileged place that we can even say no to those kind of things. So yeah, that's not lost on me at all.
Yeah, I remember actually one time I went to a pool party at Dintel's house, and I remember being like, "Damn, this is crazy." And I'm the only thing I remember from it is there was a girl making chilaquiles in a wok, and I was like, "Damn, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life."
Was his place was it at Jimmy's place out in Medina?
Yeah, had like the little kind of 70s like swinging kitchen kind of vibe.
Yeah, that place is awesome. Yeah.
Great spot. Chilaquiles in a wok. If you're listening, give it a try, guys.
I mean, that is a pretty advanced technique, and I don't know anything about cooking, but that seems like true fusion in the kitchen.
Yeah, I take advantage of the right vessel.
Was this like is this like an Asian Mexican fusion kind of vibe that was going on?
The only Asian part about it was the girl who was making the chilaquiles was Asian herself. Shout out to Carol. And the wok, of course, is a cooking device, but no, it was just a straight up and down chilaquiles.
That sounds rad.
Oh yeah, it was great. Give it a try, guys.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Do you is the Postal Service, other than getting like sinks and commercial things like that, is that door pretty much closed? I'm sure you have to hear this a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 20 years. I think we had attempted to start a second record in the year or so after the first one came out, and it became apparent pretty quickly that not only was that kind of this little snowflake of a record, but also that was also the time that Death Cab stuff was really starting to take off, and we were touring more than we ever had done before, and we were signing to Atlantic, and things were really starting to get crazy. And I had written Transatlanticism and my half of Give Up kind of in the same period in 2001, 2002 when Death Cab was on a long break. I think that it was a very kind of incredibly creative and kind of fruitful time for me.
Bro, that's fucking wild.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. But, it was like I was 25, 26, like things were flowing like crazy and I had a lot of time on my hands. So, I just felt that like, I'm already going to disappoint people with whatever we do after Transatlanticism. I don't want to do that.
I
don't want to do that with Give Up as well.
So, even if it's good, they're going to be bummed.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, first and foremost, I'm a fan of music, right? And, we all know what it's like to find that record by a band you love when you're 18 or whatever it is. And it just kind of becomes a soundtrack to your life. And, as the years progress, it becomes more difficult to get that same hit, either from the artist themselves, the band, or just from music, because you get older, you kind of get into other stuff. You hear more music, and the more music you hear, you become more discerning.
Sure.
And at my age now, I'm 46. I mean, enough music has kind of come back around, not 2, but 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's great for people who are young listening to a band that sounds like Jesus and Mary Chain, right? But I was listening to Jesus and Mary Chain. So it's rare that, a band that has like been copied 2 or 3 times over, that the third iteration of that there's going to be something for me in that. And that's fine. It doesn't make it bad. It just means it's not for me.
But Death Cab, you guys never broke up, right? You just kept trucking and like you take some time off here and there, but there was never like an extended break.
No, I mean, the longest break that we've taken was probably like a year of not playing shows. But, all the while I've been kind of writing and working on material for the band with the idea that we'd get back, never like
Smart.
Yeah, we never did like an LCD sound system or anything like that. We never.
Thank God. Thank God. Yeah. I mean, that's what I like that because I think that because of I remember when all the bands started to reunite, and I was like, these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like I was a little bit upset, and then I started to divide it by if you never made money the first time, then I accept you reuniting and cashing in. That was where that's where I started to kind of
That's fair.
Draw the line. That being said, I saw Morrissey a couple months ago in Vegas, and he was fucking amazing. Sounded great. So like I just I don't know how to go into things. I'm always expected to be disappointed. Then sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised.
Well, I'm not sure that we would see the number of reunion tours and whatnot that we've been seeing over the last 10 or 15 years if the model was still selling records, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like if you were like a popular band in the 90s, I mean, if you were REM in the 90s, they were selling tens of millions of albums, and they went 2 records without touring, like 5 years without doing
That's so sick.
any shows.
That's so sick. We're all good, guys. We're all set.
We're still counting our money. We don't have time to tour.
And in that time, in that period, they put out Of Time and Automatic for the People, both of which were massive albums.
Huge.
But I think if you're a band certainly a band that if you were kind of active towards the end of the album sales era and the beginning of the streaming era, playing live is the main source of revenue for virtually every musician who doesn't have publishing.
Yeah.
So, it's what I find kind of a little bit, annoying from time to time is when I see chatter that's like people who kind of don't know what they're talking about saying like, look, all bands need to do is just go on tour. And then when the bands go on tour, they're like, can you believe these guys are still fucking touring? I'm like, yeah, I 100% can. I 100% can because like
they're trying to buy diapers for their children. That's why.
Yeah, like let them.
Yeah, or like these guys are trying to get rich. It's like, no, they have a mortgage they're trying to pay on like a 1,500 square foot house in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to make it, make a living and kind of avoid. And
Well, I think there's also something. I think that like the festival explosion like really fuels it too. Like when there's a festival every weekend in every country for 8 months of the year and you need headliners, there's only so many names to pull from. And a lot of those are older.
And I think also too, like what's been cool to see from my perspective is how a lot of these festivals have become very highly curated, to the point, to the extent where I think there was I saw a festival that I guess it was earlier in the spring in Vegas that was all like, screamo and emo bands from like '02 to '05 or whatever.
Oh, Ben, yeah, we were supposed to be on that actually as a podcast partner, but they didn't quote unquote get it, So that being said, they didn't get that, but some of those bands that they booked, I don't get them. So I guess it goes both ways. But yeah, it's super. They did 3. They're doing. I think they ended up doing 3 days of the exact same lineup. That's how popular it was.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's like that's not music that I'm particularly into, but at the same time, like good for the fans of that music and good for the bands. It's like that to me. That I think we're gonna move away. I think we're slowly gonna be moving away from outside of the big fest, the Coachellas and the Bonnaroos and whatever Lollapaloozas. There's like 3 or 4 like marquee festivals that have now, are mostly pop music with a little bit of rock music and nostalgia, but it's mostly contemporary stuff, to smaller festivals, smaller footprints that are very specific to a genre or an era.
Yeah.
And, I think that's great because, I mean, certainly we will assuredly at some point be headlining one of those.
Oh, so.
Yeah. You're like, I'm paying it forward, baby, because in a couple of years, I'm going to take the check. It's totally fine.
It does make a lot of sense. The only downside that I've found, because I think it's amazing, and like I think Golden Voice here in LA does a lot of really good curated ones where they had a Morrissey headline one and then like 50 goth bands, and then it's just like, okay, that's just a home run,
Yeah, for sure.
But the only one issue I've seen, which is a small one, is like when every band is who you want to see, then there's a lot of like moments where you have to choose between 2 bands that you love. Where that like I was watching the Strokes play while Godspeed You Black Emperor was also playing.
Oh yeah, see that's a tough choice. That's a tough choice.
That's a tough choice. But even Julian was like, why are you guys here? You should be watching Godspeed You Black Emperor.
That's a tough choice for 50 people that listen to this podcast and maybe the 3 of us. But yeah, you're right. It's a tough choice. Overall, it's a tough choice.
But if it's between Thursday and Poison the Well, then you're going to be biting your nails. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, we have done a lot of festivals over the years with the Strokes, and I've never seen Godspeed. So I take that back. I saw them one years ago, but I think like just you have to ratio it, right? It's like, okay, I've seen the Strokes 5 times, I've seen Godspeed 1 time. Until these ratios are equal, like I'm going to choose the lesser of these 2 things, the one I've seen the least.
Amen. It's a good logic to have.
I also wanted to talk to you about Teenage Fanclub, because they're one of my favorite bands, and I feel like they're really underappreciated and underrepresented. And I know you recently covered Bandwagon-esque all the way through, which makes me think you're a real head. Is that safe to say? They're
my favorite band of all time. Yes.
Oh, baby. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. We got a real one on our hands, TJ. Now, why do you think that Teenage Fanclub is a band's band, and why they never broke through? Because if you got Kurt Cobain talking about you, got Ben Gibbard talking about you, what's the problem?
Teenage Fanclub is kind of. I feel that they are a perfect distillation of some of the greatest kind of their sphere of influence is, some of the greatest bands that people who are into records like. I mean, Big Star being one of the more obvious ones. And it's like, there are only so many Big Star records.
Yeah, of course.
And then this band comes out in the late 80s, early 90s that is kind of the culmination of all of these wonderful influences, but also writing just brilliant, vibrant songs, so catchy.
That's my thing. The songs are hits.
So they're
That's what
all
makes
hits.
Me crazy.
But their songs are hits in like an alternative dimension, It's like it's in the dimension that their songs are hits in are the one where Casey Kasem is saying, and that's the number 1 song in the country, September Girls by Big Star. Like that world never exists.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think they really appeal to people like you and I who clearly are heads and like who want new music that is kind of built out of a tradition of other music that we love. And, the thing that's so wild about Teenage Fanclub to me is like, I would meet people who are like in noise bands, who you would assume they just hate music. Like, who are in the kind of bands that like, oh, I'm in this, like, why are you in this no wave band? Oh, because I hate music. Yeah, I just kind of hate it.
Sure.
But they'll be like, I would see them like at Teenage Fanclub shows. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? It's like, they're my favorite band. What are you talking about? It's like,
interesting.
They're this bizarre connective tissue between all so many different people who play different genres of music, and they just have never made a bad record. In my opinion.
I agree.
Some are better than others, but
when it's too good, it's too good. That's what it is.
They don't make bad records.
Yeah, I mean, they're not super sexy. You know what I mean? It's not like I think that's kind of the thing too. It's like it feels almost like a working man's band's band, and that's like what they've stayed. And maybe that's better. Maybe that's why they're still making music. If they would have, burned out bright early, they might not still.
So they're still making music? Are they still playing shows?
Yeah.
Yeah, they one of their Jerry Love, who is one of the three songwriters in the band, quit 3 or 4 years ago. So, but they're still going, and it's like I as a fan, I'm sad that Jerry's no longer in the band, but that just means I get more Norman songs, So they're still going. They're still great.
I guess to put those guys on Beatles terms, who's the George, who's the Paul in that situation?
I would say that Raymond is the George. There usually has less songs in the records, but they're usually pretty punchy, pretty good. I would say that Jerry was the Paul. Always with a lot of the singles were his, And then and Norman would be the John.
Got it. Okay.
Good job, both of you, for that, Jason. Great question, Ben. Great answer. I love
Thank you.
I love podcasting.
Ben, have you guys played live with Teenage Fanclub?
Yeah, I'm kind of. Over the years, I've become buddies with Norman. And I got last time So about 5 years ago, Teenage Fanclub was doing a tour in the States, and Norman reached out to me and asked. He was like, "Hey, our keyboard player and third guitar player also plays in Belle and Sebastian, and they have a tour booked at the same time. Would you want to join the band for this like 2-week US tour?"
Oh, sick.
And I was like, yes, I would fucking love to do that. And then I looked at Death Cab's tour schedule, and the only 2 weeks we were touring that year was during the Teenage Fanclub dates. So I of course, like, being asked in the first place was unbelievably flattering, and I would have done it in a heartbeat. But I was able to kind of I recommended my friend Michael Lerner, who plays in a band called Telekinesis. And I was like, Michael would also be great to do it. And Norman was like, okay, yeah, cool. We'll have him do it. And, to be able to kind of, I was, of course, and I got to see one of the shows on the tour because I got a day off. And I was, of course, I would have loved to have been up there, but to see Michael up there having a great time and having this be like an equally transcendent experience in his life, like, he cared about the band so much, it made me, it was bittersweet, but I was really happy for Michael.
And also, Teenage Fanclub did whatever you told them to do, and that probably feels pretty good too.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of like the Kim Fowley of Teenage Fanclub. I was like, look, guys, I'll tell you what you're going to do.
Like, we're not asking anybody else.
Yeah.
Gibbard told us to hire you, so we called you. I don't even know if you have a keyboard.
Yeah, but a couple years later, I got to get on stage with them and do Everything Flows in the concept. So, it was cool. It was cool.
What if Teenage Fanclub said, "Hey, Teenage Fanclub, Postal Service, co-headlining tour. We're going to say yes. We're going to say no."
Oh, of course, a yes. I mean, that's a big yes. Yeah. We'll come out of retirement for that.
All right, Golden Voice. I know you're listening. Let's get this thing done.
Yeah, let's figure this out. Ben needs a new pool anyway, so this kind of goes.
Yeah, that's that demographic, that the elusive Teenage Fanclub Postal Service kind of like Venn diagram that they've been.
Oh, we're going to sell out so many 200 cap venues. Don't worry, sweetheart.
We got Ben back at Mercury Lounge, one night only. It's going to be great. You guys make sure to get your tickets.
Tickets still available.
Low ticket alert. There are a low amount of tickets sold.
What is now, while you're in LA doing this press, your old stomping grounds, what spots are you hitting? I'm sure there's a couple of restaurants, scratch that LA itch while you're down in the big city.
I haven't had any time to do anything fun. But the things that I loved when I was here, I loved going to New Beverly. I loved that theater. It feels like every time I come back, the programming is it's not as conducive to what I'd want to see than it was when I was living here. I think it was a little, it's gotten a little kind of action filmy, like kind of like spaghetti westerny action filmy kind of.
It got too Tarantino-y.
A little Tarantino, yes, a little. It's at peak Tarantino, which is great for him and his fans, but
can only take so much kung fu.
Only so much, yeah. There's a restaurant in the valley called Asanebo that I go to with Jenny Lewis all the time when she's here.
Yeah,
great, love that place, but I haven't been able to get there. Man, and I just spent a lot of time in Griffith Park, like running in Griffith Park. Love that. But I mean, this has been such an in and out trip. It's like in and I'm just doing press all day, and then we're like bailing the night.
Well, you're right next door to the hottest restaurant in LA. If you want to get your Italian on, Mother Wolf is just right next door, and we have to recommend it. We'd be remiss not to recommend it.
Okay, do you have an in there that you could like?
It might be a little last minute, Ben, to be honest with you, but I think your PR person's on the phone. Put them to work. You know what I mean? Get them in there. Those people at Atlantic Records can throw some weight around. I'm sure.
Ben, I can do 5:15 at the bar if that works for you. One top. It's a one top.
No, if you.
Yeah, I think you guys might be like wildly overstating my influence in the world to be like, we've got I'm calling for Atlantic Records. We got the guys from Death Cab. Yeah, that band from 20 years ago. Yeah, they're in town. Yeah, they're in town.
Yeah, we got 5:15 on Saturday.
Or like, the runner. Yeah. No problem.
No, I think but it is. You could probably sneak in early. It really is delicious, though. All joking aside,
okay.
It really is.
Right.
It is nice. But I'm glad that you have a few haunts. But
it's good that you're sober because the wine list is not cheap.
Yeah, we have a story where we got blindsided by a wine charge, and we're still recommending the restaurant. That's how nice we are.
What was the charge? How much was it by the bottle? It was like you buy the bottle if the guy recommended one?
So I'll tell you the story real quick. A friend of ours who goes there all the time, he has like this bottle. He's from Sicily, so he knows his legit Italian wine, and there's like a bottle. It's maybe around $80 or $90 that he loves. And I think they happen to be out of it at that time. So he's like, recommend something, similar in that range. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got something for you. Brings out a bottle. We taste it. I'm like, oh, it's good, blah, blah, blah. We had a big group, so we ordered another bottle. And nobody decided to tell us that each bottle was like $260 or something like that.
It was yeah. So
and Chris doesn't drink, so he basically had some pizza and some salads, and he probably put $400 something on the Amex that day.
And then you were like, okay, so we're splitting this bill, right?
No, of course. Yeah, that's what they always do to me because they know that I love to spend money even when it's ill-advised or stupid.
I tell him, I'll get the tip, and he says, no, don't be ridiculous.
I just hate to look cheap. It's really my greatest fear is to be seen as cheap. So I do things that are affect me negatively to kind of make sure.
Whereas mine is going too far out into the ocean. I have no problem being.
Therein lies this kind of like this kind of issue with the ordering of wine at a restaurant. It's like I don't think I've ever been with somebody. I mean, I'm talking like when I was I'm talking like shitty cheap Italian restaurant all the way to like we're going out for a nice dinner kind of level of meal. Where anybody's asked how much the bottle of wine was. It's like something that you're almost like if you have to ask, then you don't belong here kind of thing. So you want to play along with it. And it seems like it's a place of a lot of people get taken advantage of a lot in that kind of scenario, right? Because it's just like, oh yeah, sure. Oh, you can recommend something? Sure. Well, I'd love to know what your recommendation of the person who makes money on the more expensive bottles of wine being sold.
Yeah, exactly. The system is flawed.
And surely you won't admit how poor you are by protesting the price of this wine.
Yeah, you don't want to look bad in front of your friends. You don't want to look poor in front of your friends.
Yeah, Jenny Lewis might not invite you to Asanebo anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can't not get invited to Asanebo with Jenny Lewis. That'd be bad. I wanted to give a quick shout out to our mutual friend Brendan Casey for kind of making this intro too, Ben. I just we could have gone through the proper channels, but I'm glad we had a personal connection.
Yeah, Brendan's awesome, man. We've been friends for the last couple of years. We kind of met through some mutual friends like during the pandemic, and like him and Amber are just the best. Like we hang out all the time. Amber is my sports wife. As we
wow, this is a new okay.
Yeah, so Rachel, my wife, doesn't care to go to Seattle Sounders matches or she'll go to baseball games and stuff. But she's not like she's a if there's wine involved, as we've stated before, she'll go pretty much anywhere. But there's not wine at Sounders matches.
Unless she brings it herself.
Yeah, you can sneak it in, I guess. But, you may or may not know, Brendan and Amber have season tickets for the Seattle Sounders. So
of course we knew that. Of course we knew that.
They're like, hey, we got an extra ticket. You want to go? And so we've established this relationship where she is my sports wife, where we'll go to, if Brendan can't make the game, like, yeah, I'll go with you. I'll be your sports husband for the night, So, and they're just awesome. So I just saw them last week. Seattle was under a cloud of smoke. So, Amber and a couple of our friends came over, watched Sounders at our house, and then we went down and visited Brendan at the wine shop. So yeah, they're awesome people.
You're just a really well-rounded cat, man. I gotta say, because as much as I like music, I can't be bothered to like sports. It's just not for me. But I'm impressed by your wide range of interests.
Ben does it all.
Some have called me a modern day Renaissance man. That's just some people.
Okay.
Some people call me that. You could call me that in the intro. Whatever. You could do that. You could call me.
Okay.
That.
Certified raconteur.
I'll check Spin Magazine 2005, and I'm sure they said that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Ben, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure. The new Death Cab for Cutie album, Asphalt Meadows, is out everywhere tomorrow. Are you guys going on tour as well?
Yeah, we'll be on the road starting the 21st in Madison, and then kind of doing a big loop around the country, and then heading to Europe in the spring. So
doing the whole thing. All right,
great.
Man. Well, look, enjoy your time in LA, and we'll see you soon, man. Appreciate you.
All right, sounds good. Yep, talk to you guys later.